What's up, YouTube? Your boy back once again with another sport topic, and today we're going to talk some football, Houston Texans football. Today, we're going to talk about what's really wrong with the Houston Texans offense and what can be done to fix it, if there's anything that can be done to fix it. We're going to talk about, we're going to break it down, but before we get in there, like I've been telling you before, if you liking the content, man, make sure you liking the channel. Make sure you watching all the videos, you commenting all the videos, you liking all the videos, you sharing all the videos on all social media platforms, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, TikTok, Snapchat, any type of social media platform you use. Make sure you share it on the same social media platforms. Also, follow me on social media as well. The link in the description below. We still trying to get this channel growing. We still on the race to get to 6,000 subscribers. So you know what I need? I need you to tell a friend, to tell a friend, to tell another friend, so they can tell some more friends. Put them on game with the channel. Make sure they like the channel, they subscribe to the channel, so we can get the channel growing and get up to 6,000 subscribers. I really appreciate that. Now, let's talk about what's really going on with the Houston Texans offense. Can it be fixed? Will it be fixed? And what we can do going forward. You know, Houston Texans are 20th in points per game, averaging 21.1 points per game. They're 20th in the NFL. Now they're 11th in passing offense, averaging 238.6 yards per game on the pass offense side. But when we talk about the rushing offense, they're 23rd, averaging 91.9 rushing yards per game. And total offense, they're 17, averaging 330.4 yards total per game on offense. Now, the rushing numbers are really kind of bad because on first downs, we average 4.7 rushing first downs. That's 28th in the NFL. 28, averaging 4.7 rushing first downs a game. We are 25th in the NFL with rushing touchdowns, 0.4 average per game. We are 30th in yards per run attempt, averaging 3 yards per attempt, and we are 13th we're 13th in rushing attempts per game, averaging 28.1 rushing attempts per game. So we run the football in the top half of the league. Like I said, 13th in the NFL, averaging 28.1 rushing attempts per game, but we're 30th in rushing yards per attempt. With like I said, 3.3 rushing yards per attempt. We're 25th in rushing touchdown score, averaging 0.4, and we're 28th in like rushing first downs, 4.7 per game, and 23rd in the whole NFL in rushing yards. But we're 11th in passing yards, because really we're 11th in passing yards. So the problem is we're steadily trying to run the football. We're actually out getting anything done productively in the run game. Now, we all seen what's going on. We watching Dameon Pierce. Like, we see that, like I said, Dameon Pierce is not fitting this offense. And I know some people wanted us to go out there, draft Bijan Robinson, draft Bijan Robinson before the season during the draft, even with the 12th pick in the draft. We ended up trading for one of the NC, and plus Bijan wasn't even there at 12. And no, a lot of us, me included, was like, nah, that's stupid. We got Dameon Pierce. But I expected Dameon Pierce to do something better in this rushing offense. Again, it seems like Dameon Pierce does not fit this rushing offense. I've been saying this for the past couple weeks, that he does not see those cutback lanes at all. He's horrendous when he's reading this cutback. He's horrendous in reading the cutbacks, and he doesn't fit this. Singletary fits it more, but then Singletary is still not getting you what you really need in the rushing attempts. He's not doing exactly what you need to do. Now, this offense is predicated on the run. We've seen it under Garrett Kubiak. We see what's going on with Kyle Shanahan out there in San Francisco. We see what this offense has done. Like I said, we've seen it firsthand with Garrett Kubiak and all the running backs we've had here rushing for 1,000 yards here in Houston. But the thing is, that ain't this. We're not getting it done with these type of running backs that we got. But we steadily keep on running the football. And the passing, like I said, we're 11th in passing yards. Before the bye week, CJ himself was top 5 in passing. Top 5 in passing, 9 touchdowns, only 1 interception. So it seems like we should be having the pass to set up the run. Stop trying to keep the team to run the football when it seems like this team is better at throwing the football. And you have a quarterback in CJ Stroud. Now, the problem is, like I said, after the game Sunday, when we were only able to muster up 13 points versus the Carolina Panthers, that we don't got the receivers that we need. We don't have the receivers that we need. I know Nico Collins was at one point in time was top 5 in receiving yards, and he was on pace to catch 1,500 yards, 1,500 yards. And 1 point in time, him and Tank was both, I think, like 10th and 11th or 11th and 12th in receiving yards before, they kind of missed some games. That really was all done with the production of 2 games, especially when it comes to Nico Collins. The Pittsburgh Steelers game and the Indianapolis Colts game. That was it. Outside of those 2 games, he really hasn't done anything. Now, those 2 games, he looked phenomenal. The one game he had 140-some yards. The other game he had 160-some yards, 2 touchdowns. He looked phenomenal, running people over. That's cool. But he's not a number 1 receiver. He's not a true number 1 receiver. He's not dictating the coverage. He's not changing things up. And he's not making the plays. A lot of these guys are not making the plays when their quarterback CJ's trying to make plays. He's trying to put the ball in there. We've seen a lot of times drop touchdowns. And sometimes they're not going after the pass, not going after the reception. We've seen in the Saints game when CJ was running out and getting eluding sack and threw it out. And Robert Woods didn't even attempt to catch it. It was out of his area because he didn't even go forward. Sometimes you gotta make the play for your quarterback. Like sometimes you have to go out there, you gotta make the play for your quarterback, and that's not what he's not doing. And we don't really have those guys. So the trade deadline just passed, and the Texans obviously didn't make any moves. There should have been some moves made. I'm about to say a name. I know some people might disagree with it. It's cool if you do. And if you're trying to run the football, why don't you go after Saquon Barkley? That's probably the only real running back you probably could have really went after, especially since you didn't go after Kareem Hunt when he was out there before Cleveland ended up taking him after the injury to Nick Chubb. Dalvin Cook. You could have got him when he was a free agent. I don't care what people say about Dalvin Cook is washed and he's not showing anything with the Jets. But you didn't know that going in. You should have made a play for him, especially if you don't feel like Dameon Pierce is the right running back for your offense. Because if I can see it right now, I know they can see it during practice. I know they can see that, hey, Dameon Pierce ain't hitting these cutback lanes the way we need him to. So if I can see it watching the game on Sunday, I know that they can see it in the press box. I know they can see it in practice film. Why you go after somebody like Dalvin Cook then? And again, why didn't you make a call for Saquon Barkley? Now, I know Saquon Barkley is about to be a free agent. On the one you did, so if you trade for him, you're going to have to pay him. Honestly, that's cool. I'm not giving up a first-round pick. I'm not giving up a second-round pick. But, and you probably would have to give up a third-round pick. I don't know if I really would want to give up third-round pick. You got 2 4s. You got a whole bunch of 7s because you don't have a 5th or a 6th. I would try to lean and see maybe I can give up one of them 4s, maybe give up a future picks and things like that. Especially when you see Chase Young going for a compensatory third-round pick, and I think it's a pick swap. It was very, very mediocre what they end up giving him up for. Chase Young. You could have made that same type of similar deal to the Giants for a guy like Saquon Barkley if you want to bolster up the running game. Now, I'm not saying that you should have did it. I'm just saying if you want to make a move and want to fix this running game, that could have been the way to do it. I know Saquon got injury issues. I know you're going to have to pay him, and I get all that. That's why I'm not giving up a first or a second. I really wouldn't want to give up a third either. Now, if it's over a 4th, okay, cool. Then I can see you hanging up the phone and not making the deal done. But I wouldn't mind getting it done. Another name, and this one is more important. This is the one that I really it kind of upset that they didn't go after. Davante Adams. We just seen that the Raiders just fired Josh McDaniels and their general manager. They just fired it because we see what Davante Adams was mad at. 1 catch for 11 yards on Monday Night Football, slamming his helmet in frustration. Now, again, that's his problem. That's his fault. He went over there to the Raiders trying to play football with his homeboy, Derek Carr, knowing that his homeboy ain't got it. When you was over there playing with Aaron Rodgers, but you rather play with Derek Carr because that's your homeboy. I get it. That's cool. Now Derek Carr gone. It's kind of like that Brandon Cook situation that we was dealing with in Houston. You come over here to be with Jackie, used to be Jackie be gone. Now you want out. That's all good and gravy. But then again, that benefited Dallas. Dallas was able to get Brandon Cooks for a 5th-round pick. You should have went after and got Davante Adams and brought him in. So you have a true bona fide number 1 receiver. That's something you should have did. The reason why I brought up Saquon because they constantly want to run the football, but they don't have the guys to do it. If you want to do those numbers, if you want to constantly be 13th or higher, be in the top half of the league in rushing attempts, but you're still in the bottom half of the league in rushing ability, You need to add in a running back to help balance that out. At least it makes sense while you run the football. I'm more of the mindset what you need to do is put the football in your quarterback's hand and throw the football. But I agree that you don't have the receivers that you would like to help in this offense. That's why you should go after a Devontae Adams. But you didn't. Or a Jared Judy or a Cortland Sutton or any of these other receivers. Tampa Bay probably wouldn't really unload Mike Evans because we see how the NFC South is, and Tampa Bay's actually playing well enough to win the division. Anybody in the NFC South can win the division, honestly. So I can see why maybe he went on the market, but Devontae Adams is definitely. Devontae Adams should have been on the market, and I feel like that's the reason why the Raiders end up firing their head coach and their general manager, because they paid Devontae Adams all their money, and they not doing nothing with him. You might as well unload him. And when the deal's not being done, when you don't unload him and get something back, now you just got him for no damn reason. So I feel like that's the reason why he got fired. They got fired, and I feel like Nick Caserio should have made a play for that. But I'm not surprised, honestly, that Nick Caserio's not making any choices. This is not even a video on Nick Caserio, but I'm not surprised that Nick Caserio is not the one out here making calls. I'm not surprised, because when you see the type of trades he do, I don't really trust him when it comes to making trades, honestly. But when I sit back and I look at this thing, I'm looking at what this team is doing. I'm looking at how this defense is playing well. That's 3 weeks in a row. 3. The Atlanta Falcons game, this New Orleans Saints game, and then this game against Carolina. That's 3 games in a row that your defense came out there and played pretty much, not a perfect game, but play as well as they can play. Play well enough for you to win. Now, I know they end up giving up a field goal late in that that Falcons game, but they gave you 2 turnovers. You weren't able to cash in. They gave you 2 turnovers back to back, and you weren't able to cash in. Now CJ ended up scoring what should have been the game-winning touchdown, but the Falcons drove up and scored and kicked the game-winning field goal, and the game was over. So I get that, and also you let Desmond Ridder throw for 300 yards. But the defense still played well enough to win. They did what they needed to do in the first half. The offense was able to cash in on it. New Orleans Saints, same thing. Defense did exactly what they needed to do. Offense did just enough to win. The game on Sunday, I know they gave up the last drive to kick the field goal, but your offense was completely putrid and did nothing. It mustered up 13 points. 13 points. 13 against an 0-6 team. This team is 0-6, and you were only able to get 13 points. The defense gave you the ball back. Well, I think like 5 minutes left to go in the game, up 13-12. And you weren't able to cash in. You was up 13-12. That's when I expected the offense. Okay, hey, they about to go out there and they about to put the dagger in the Carolina Panthers. They're gonna go out there and at least kick a field goal and make it a 5-point game and make the Carolina Panthers have to score a touchdown. If not, actually score a touchdown and make the Carolina Panthers not only score a touchdown, but have to get a 2-point conversion just to send it to OT. That's what I was expecting. But you put the defense in a bad situation, not getting past the 40-yard line. Then every time they get the football, they're getting it on their 40. They get short fields. That's when you put the defense in a bad situation. You have to do more offensively. And when you look at those numbers right there, because you constantly run the football when you don't have the hogs to do it. So go out there and get the hogs to do it. But you let another trade deadline pass you up. And the thing that's more frustrating about it, I know people are already saying in the comment section, this team ain't ready to win. This team not ready to win. We young. We trying to mature. We trying to grow and all this type of stuff like that. I sit back and say that, but you gave up your draft capital, your draft pick, to trade for Willie Anderson. All that's negated. The moment that you give up your draft pick when you didn't have to, and I don't want to hear that. Oh, well, of course we had to do it because the Cardinals when they took the Cleveland Browns pick. That's bull. Because if any of y'all have Roku, if any of y'all have Roku, they have a draft special on Roku when they talk about the first 5 picks in the draft and they're inside the war room. The Cardinals did not expect that the Texans was giving them their pick. When they said next year's first, they assumed it was the Cleveland Browns pick. They thought it was the Cleveland Browns. They're like, wait, y'all give us y'all pick? Oh, okay. They assumed it was Cleveland's pick. They didn't know that they was giving us they didn't know that they were giving our pick. So the moment that you do that, The moment when you give up your pick, you're out here saying that you're going to be better than the Cleveland Browns. That's what you're banking on. And okay, even if you're not better than them, you're going to be close enough that pick is not. We're going to be close enough. Our pick is going to be close enough to the Cleveland Browns pick that even if our pick is like, even if our pick is pick 12 and Cleveland Browns is probably picked like 15, so it's really not that big of a difference. Yeah, it's still a little bit higher, but we're close. We're close. That means anytime any type of roster movement, you're going to be able to make that roster move to get better. At any given turn, you're turning over every rock to try to get that roster improved. And that's not what Nick Caserio's doing. He's too busy sitting on his hands like the pick that we have is our pick. So, yeah, even if we lose, if we win some games, cool, we make the playoffs. If we don't, we end up having a high draft pick. That's not the case. The Arizona Cardinals will have our draft pick and not us. So I don't want to hear that we're not ready to win. No, you should be ready to win. You should be doing everything you want to win, everything you have to do to win, because you don't control your own draft pick. So that's the frustration when it comes with the offense. And I want to come out here and say, hey man, Bobby Sawyer, I don't like Bobby Sawyer play calls, which I don't. It's Bobby Sawyer he had a good play. He had a good game. The end of the Colts game, the Jacksonville game, and the Saints game. I mean, the Pittsburgh game, and the couple games after that, his offensive calling has been kind of. But I'm sitting back and watching. You know what? I really can't blame him too much, because he really don't have the hogs to do it. He wants to establish now. The one thing he wants to continue to establish the run, but you don't have the hogs to do it. And like I said, Dameon Pierce is not reading the zones right. Singletary is, but Singletary really not giving you what you really need. So the things that he wants to do offensively, he really can't. So what he needs to do, he does need to make the adjustments though, and switch over to, hey, we need to pass more. We need to pass set the run. That's what we need to do. We need to pass set the run. We maybe do some little screens and jet sweeps and tosses and things like that to substitute for an actual run game, because we don't have a run game as it stands right now, because we don't have a running back. And we should have got a running back during the draft. We should have gotten Tajay Spears during the draft. David, Dante, what's his name? Dante A-Chain, David A-Chain, Devon A-Chain, A-Chain from Texas, and then end up going to Miami. I know he ended up getting hurt. I think he's out for the season, if I'm not mistaken. But he was balling before he got hurt. Somebody like that. We should have went out there and got A-Chain or got Deuce Vaughn or things like that. We should have got somebody else in the draft to put inside this, especially since we don't have, especially since we're not using Hutchinson. We're not even using Hutchinson. If I'm not mistaken, the pick that we drafted Hutchinson, I think we drafted Hutchinson before A-Chain was even off the board. So we should take Deuce Vaughn. So we should take Deuce Vaughn over Hutchinson, because we're not even using Hutchinson right now. So we should have made other draft selections, and also Nick used a lot of draft capital jumping up and down the draft, so we probably missed out on some picks anyway. So, but we should have tried to either bolster up this running game via the draft or via free agency, if we're not going to do it if we're not going to do it right now during the trade deadline. Obviously, we didn't do it during the trade deadline. And now, like I said, when you start doing stuff like that, you put your offense in the hole, especially when you're trying to run. You're in the top half of rushing per game. But you're in the not in the bottom half. You're at the absolute bottom. You're in the bottom 5 in almost every rushing statistic outside rushing attempts. That makes no sense. Like, share, subscribe, leave a comment below. If you haven't clicked that bell, get more videos. I holla.